Welcome back. Room to Grow is a nonprofit organization running a 3-year program designed to provide essential support to families raising babies born into low income communities. The organization offers parents and caregivers childcare necessities, strategies, and support to promote their child's development. Executive Director for Room to Grow, Sandra Medeiros, joins me to discuss. Sandra, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to be here with you.
Now, can you tell us a little bit more about Room to Grow and how did the organization begin?
Yes, so Room to Grow is an organization that believes that all children and families, regardless of their circumstances, deserve the support and resources to thrive, especially in the child's early years. And we are a nonprofit organization with offices here in New York, as well as Boston, and soon Chicago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so Room to Grow was founded in 1998 by Julie Burns, who was working as a social worker at the time with school-age children. And throughout her work, what she was learning and seeing as she was supporting the young people is that so many of the challenges they were experiencing could be prevented with the right supports very early in life. And so from that, Room to Grow was born. And 25 years later, here we are.
Well, I want to say congrats on expanding. I think this, already it sounds like an amazing organization. So I could just imagine how much it's going to help people, across the country. So it's wonderful that you're expanding.
Thank you.
Now, I want to learn a little bit more about, the choice to focus primarily on infants and toddlers.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of the times people just group children and young people all in one thing. But why did you want to focus on, very small, infants and toddlers?
Yes, those early years are just critical for children's development and establishing a foundation for future success in school and in life. And so during the first 3 years of life, really 3 to 5 years of life, 80% of the child's brain is developing. In the early years, there are, I believe it's 1 million neural connections happening in the brain every second. And so the right support and the foundation for children and families during that time is so critical. And the support really comes by way of making sure that families have the resources that they need, all of the baby and toddler items that little ones kind of come with to think about sleep and clothing, and they're growing every 3 months. So just making sure that they have not just the physical resources, but for families and caregivers, the emotional resources to really guide them in their parenting journey, to affirm all of the amazing work that they're already doing as parents that oftentimes we forget when we have little ones. And then the connections to other resources that they need in order to meet their goals as families. And so we decided to start from the beginning and make sure that families have everything that they need in order to thrive and meet their goals as a family.
Now, what I think is so interesting is that we're looking at this age group, infant to toddler before school.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know what are the effects of poverty, on that demographic before they enter school, because we usually look at it from maybe K through 12 and see how poverty affects them, educationally that way. But, how is it affecting them, before they enter school?
Yeah. The research shows us that as early as 2 months of age, we can already see gaps between children living in low income circumstances and their more affluent peers in terms of how children are developing physically, cognitively, etc. And we see that by the time kiddos enter kindergarten, oftentimes they're already 1 year below their peers in school. And those gaps, we see and know that unless they're intentionally supported and targeted in those early years of life, they can persist throughout a child's K to 12 education and in many ways exacerbate. And so, the research also shows us that those gaps can be mitigated if you really start early and support little ones to start their school journey as ready as they can and continue to support them throughout.
Now, can you talk a little bit more about Room to Grow's 3-year program?
Yes. So what it looks like concretely is that families, parents, caregivers start working with us during the birthing parent's third trimester of pregnancy. And in that very first visit, we're talking about what to expect when the little ones arrive. It's really ensuring that families have all of the support that they need for the birth and that they know what they should expect, what they could advocate for, make sure that their network right from the beginning is as strong as they need. And then after the child is born, parents are visiting our family centers once every 3 months, just right before that next spurt of development. And we're talking about, parenting questions. We're talking about the family's goals. We're assessing how the child is developing and helping to coach parents on what to do to support that next phase. In addition, we're sharing with families the resources that they need to support their development. So toys, books, equipment, oh my gosh, feeding essentials, you name it. Over the course of the 3 years in the program, the retail value of the material goods that we provide to families is the equivalent of $10,000. And so families can focus their resources at home on other things, and we're helping to offset what can be, very expensive items through our program. And then, we're also providing families with warm connections to other resources in the community, like what's next after our program, preschool, et cetera, housing, issues of food security, to really help families ensure that they have what they need in order to meet their own goals.
Now, what I think is really interesting, or probably even unique, is that you're supporting families before the baby even enters, the
Mm-hmm.
world, which I think is amazing. What is the purpose or like the importance of like starting even that early before they even enter the world?
Yes, it's our program is a two-generation model, and I think for one of many reasons, it's why it works and is effective. I think once you can start working with the family to ensure that they know that they have a support network that's going to be with them for at least 3 years, and we support families and encourage them to stay connected and in touch with us after they graduate from our program. When the child turns 3, they know that they have that support that's going to be with them on their journey. And I think not only in providing the education and coaching and the items, you know that you have someone else that you can kind of come to with questions to celebrate milestones, and just, from the very beginning, which can feel like such a scary time, especially if you don't have all of the support and resources that you need. Just knowing that you're going to have someone there on their journey goes a long way. And our families tell us, 90% of our families in our program tells us that Room to Grow helps us achieve their goals as parents and helps them reduce stress. And stress is such an important piece in parenting, particularly in the early years. We know that if stress is reduced, families and parents and caregivers can form healthy relationships. It supports attachment, and all of those things really help little ones developing brains in their bodies. And so we start as early as we can.
Now,
Yeah.
we were able to see a clip of this space, and it looks very, very
Mm.
beautiful. Can you just talk about, the experience families will have when they walk through those doors?
Yes, I love this question. I'm so glad you're asking, because our space is so intentional. Like, it's called Room to Grow for a reason, and that room, for many reasons, but that room is very intentional. We strive to create a warm, welcoming environment where all families and children love to come to. It's bright, it's airy, there's lots of windows, there's lots of toys. There's dedicated space for private conversations that families have with their dedicated clinician. There's a beautiful boutique of baby items and equipment that parents are co-selecting alongside other program team members. And, we really want it to be a space, and have designed it to be a space that communicates love, encouragement, support, joy. And so, I often joke and say that it's kind of like in a movie, a character, like the setting can be a character.
Right.
In the movie, Room to Grow is an additional team member. Our space is an additional team member in that support.
Now, I want to expand on some of the programs offered. Can you just talk a little bit about how there's a program for every family?
Yes, every family. So we, work with nearly 700 families in New York, and it's our goal and aspiration to grow, to work with many, many more families. And, we work with families who are having their first little one, maybe families who are having, their third, fourth, or fifth little one. We work with single family households, single parent households, multiple parent households, families, mothers as young as kind of their teenage years, all the way up to their 40s. And so, we welcome all families who could benefit from the support. And so long as they're interested and feel like they can be in our program for the 3 years, we welcome them.
Now, part of the program relies on donations from generous volunteers and community members.
Yes.
How can people get involved, and what are accepted items for donations?
Oh, yes. Thank you for asking that. So we rely so heavily on the generosity of our community to ensure that we have those baby goods to share with families. And all of the items that we receive are donated from the community. And so these are our families who have, their own kiddos items and that quickly outgrew and are still in amazing condition. And so we ask them to donate them to us because we can give those items a second life with other families who could use them. And all of those items, so to give you kind of a sense of context, we procure almost 500,000 items every year to distribute to the families in our program. And those items are processed and organized and sorted and cleaned by the helping hands of many volunteers. So we love it when folks come to our family center to help us sort all of those items and then distribute them as quickly as possible to families. And then please donate your items to
Now,
us as well.
can you quickly just let us know how, people can get involved and how they can learn more?
Yes, so if you go to our website, roomtogrow.org, you can find links to donate items, to volunteer, to support financially, to be a part of our program. You can apply directly through our website. There's a wealth of information there.
Well, I thank you so much for joining us and having this conversation. For me, this is the first time that I'm hearing about a program like this. And so it's wonderful to learn a little bit more about some of the work that you do, especially for, infants and toddlers, because as I mentioned, I think for a lot of the stuff that focuses on children, it's usually school age children.
Yes.
So this is wonderful. Can you just quickly let us know, your experience, in working in this, and, how it has impacted you in any way?
Yes, so prior to joining Room to Grow, I was a classroom teacher. I've taught kindergarten and first grade, and I would see firsthand the students who would come to my classroom not quite ready. And so, certainly I worked incredibly hard, as our teachers do, to help ensure that students, could catch up and be right where they need to be by the end of the school year. And have been working, my whole career in that space at various iterations of education. And so seeing a program that is working, and 9 out of 10 of our kiddos are achieving their milestones on time, and that is supporting the whole family was so exciting to me. And then I see the impact day in and day out.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, and I appreciate you welcoming us here. Thank you.
If you or someone you know are interested in the programs from Room to Grow, please go to their website at www.roomtogrow.org. We've come to the end of our show today. I'd like to thank all of our guests for joining us and you, the viewers, for tuning in. If you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the Recablecast at 5 and 10 p.m. on Optimum Channel 67 and Verizon Fios Channel 33, or watch anytime on the web at bronxnet.org. You can catch a brand new episode of Open with Darren Hymie on Wednesday and with Rena Valentine on Friday. I'm Kibin Alleyne, wishing you and yours safety and wellness now and always. See you next time.